I'm Miss Houlihan if you forgot me. And I certainly expect that there are some new students with us as well. But we ask that you stay muted. You know, we can't really have any disruptions. I do want to make time for questions, but we ask that everybody stay muted and cooperative so that you can remain. But if you're not able to stay muted and it creates a disruption, we're just going to remove you. But we hope that, as always, you're going to be cooperative and we'll be able to move forward. So I'm going to share my screen with you now. Why is it not?
Sorry, I just, oh my God, Houlihan.
Oh. Did you?
I put it back on.
Okay. All right, I'll start over. Okay, here we go. Thank you. All right. So welcome everybody to the Student Community Forum today, and we're going to ensure that every student is engaged with the opportunity and access to equity and excellence in education at Fort Hamilton. You know, even with a fully remote, blended, pandemic, fires, we're still going to do everything we can to make sure you are engaged and have opportunities to the best of our ability. So an objective, some of the objectives for the forum, and I'm glad you're joining us, is to get reacquainted with our purpose as members of the Fort Hamilton community. I want to get you reacquainted with the mission at Fort Hamilton. We're going to share the safety measures and expectations that will ensure that we're all safe for the community, and this is primarily for people in the building, but if you're not coming into the building now, hopefully things will go well and you'll be in the building later. And then we're going to talk about the structures for the remote and blended model, and then have time for some questions. So I first want to ask, what do you most enjoy about being a member of the Fort Hamilton community? So certainly one of the things I love is the diversity of our student population. But if you just want to type in the chat, you know, what's something you love about being a member of the Fort Hamilton community? The variety of opportunities for students. Thank you, Madeline. All the activities, great. Meeting new friends. I'm new. Well, Karen, you're going to learn a lot, so you can kind of follow the chat and see what others are happy about as far as Fort Hamilton. Good. You know, we have a lot of families who all of their children come. We have lots of clubs, great teachers. Okay. The people in general. I think, you know, I think we all take pride in the people at Fort Hamilton, and that's something we're going to rely on more than ever. Those relationships and knowing that, you know, there's someone here you trust and you can share, you know, what you might be struggling with. But I want to thank everybody for sharing. You know, we're going to continue to make sure all of the things that you most enjoy are available to you. But now I want to ask you kind of the flip side of that question as we move into, you know, a blended model. How will you accomplish what you most enjoy in the remote or blended setting? So you don't have to answer that question right now, but, you know, depending on what you said, making friends, you know, great teachers, just think about how you're going to maximize the things that you enjoy in this blended setting. It's going to be different for everybody. But again, we don't want to lose what you most enjoy with the new kind of format. So I'm just going to ask you to read to yourselves. This is the first part of our mission, that the community is diligently striving to meet the academic and social emotional challenges of the 21st century. So just continue reading that on your own, just to reacquaint yourselves.
I'll make it heavier as you get used to it. Here, have some tea.
I want to emphasize that the last statement, you know, that we believe every member is capable of succeeding, and we are, you know, working hard to make sure that individual needs are met. And the second part, we make our large communities safe and inclusive by encouraging student voice, supporting expansive curricular and extracurricular activities, reinforcing high expectations, applying learning to real life experiences, and preparing all students to be college and career ready, as well as civically responsible. So again, this is on our website. Hopefully this might be the very reasons that you're with us at Fort Hamilton, but I'm going to stop sharing for the moment and turn things over to Mrs. Mancini, our Assistant Principal of Guidance, to just kind of help you, you know, kind of set the stage for re-entering the school. So Mrs. Mancini.
1 second. I just want to tell someone I'm in a meeting.
I know, things are happening.
Okay. So if you could all mute yourselves, thank you. Welcome for those of you who were with us last year. You know, welcome back. For those of you who are new, welcome to Fort Hamilton. And I want to begin by asking you and asking for you to begin to be able to communicate your feelings, right? The permission to feel. I see some parents are on as well. And so oftentimes what we kind of assume is that, you know, unless someone tells us that there's something going on, everything's okay. But we have to sometimes ask that. And so the best way to kind of do that for teenagers, and I have a teenage daughter, and I know that sometimes you ask, and how are things? Oh, they're great, they're fine, they're okay. Is to model sort of that. So what I mean by that is for parents to begin to put a name to what they're feeling, right? We are going through a global pandemic. It has affected us socially, economically. And so we can't just say, okay, we're fine. We're fine, we're okay, we're functioning, of course, because we are human and we're resilient. But we do have feelings about what's happened to us. So that's what I'm gonna ask, is that whatever that feeling may be, that we communicate it to each other, that we notice each other, that if in fact we notice that our children are not doing well, not transitioning well, this lack of sort of the typical structure is throwing them for a loop, that you let us know. Even though they're only going to be in the building 1 day a week, we still have 19 guidance counselors, 3 social workers, 2 school psychologists that are here to provide the social and emotional support. I will let you know that if you weren't with us last year, there was a tremendous need for social emotional well-being and health and support, and we were able to respond remotely. And the counselors did an excellent job with doing that and connecting families to services. So if we can provide more of that clinical help that's required, we connected families to those services outside. And what most of the mental health services are doing now is teletherapy. So you can still be able to get that for yourself as a family, in terms of family counseling, or individually. There may not be a need for that. The kind of going back to routine and going to bed at a certain time so that you are waking up early and therefore not staying up until 1, 2 o'clock in the morning on your phones and stuff like that. That's all very important. It will happen once you realize that you have to attend your class when it is scheduled, which is really, really important. So if you have a period 1 class, you're going to have to be up for 7 o'clock in the morning. Why is it important? So that you're not up until 1 o'clock in the morning. So waking up that early, invariably you'll be too tired to be on your phone and things like that. That helps in terms of having a healthy brain, because your brain does need to rest, right? So all those things that we kind of let go because we were home and because, you know, maybe we weren't logging on when we normally would have met. Now the expectation is that it is pretty much mirroring what we would do if we were in the building. So if you're full-time remote, you're expected to meet when your classes meet. If you're not there, you're absent, right? If you're not participating, you're not participating. So even remotely, you can participate. So it's very, very important that you realize that. And the insistence comes from, educationally, that's just the way it has to go. That is the way we learn, but also emotionally. We all need, including the adults, I will tell you, when I got back to work, we were back on the 31st of August, the administration. It felt really good being back. So I'm going to ask, not that I don't love my family, I do love my family, but it was nice to be seeing other people, other adults to interact. And it put me back also on a better schedule. So those things you may find in the beginning to be annoying, but understand the reason why, and that's the reason why. Also, in terms of academically, if you need support, you will be seeing your teachers. Ask your teachers for additional support. They can do breakout sessions, and if you're here one day in person, we can make arrangements for that. So don't think that just because we're continuing with this remote model, that those structures are not in place. They are in place. They're being delivered differently, okay? But they're there. Very important, right? It's just different, but not that it's not there. You'll also know that if you're not attending regularly, we have what's called Project Success, which is our attendance squad that monitors your attendance. So if you're not there, teachers will submit an anecdotal report to us indicating that you're not there, that you're not engaged, and you're not participating, obviously. So parents, you should expect to hear from us, reminding you, prompting you that the child needs to attend regularly. Again, systems and structures in place so that you don't fall behind. It'll be really difficult to catch up if you don't start from day one. If you don't have those routines. The more you're disconnected from us, the less likely it'll be to kind of get yourself back on track. So really important that you start from day one. The fact that you are here participating and on this meet is a sign that you understand the importance, right? Usually orientation will be done in person, but here we are, we're doing it this way. Now, if you're new and you don't know who your guidance counselor is, make sure you check People Path. That is our means of communication. Your program will indicate your guidance counselor. So if there are any issues, whether it be academic, emotional, or attendance, that you reach out to them. For the seniors who are on this call, please know that all of that senior and college admissions things that we will have to do, we will do it. Counselors will be meeting with students next week. Again, remotely, you'll get an invite to meet with your counselors. And so the conversation will be different with seniors because there are some things that you have to start now. You should have all been thinking about colleges that you want to attend. You could have gone on some virtual tours, definitely gone on some, just Google searches in terms of what careers and majors they offer. But we're going to do that, begin to do that with you once we're here and start full-time in terms of the full-time blended, though it sounds like an oxymoron, full-time blended, but meaning once we start with the blended and the full-time remote. So know that those things are going to happen. You're not going to miss out on, applying to college. But what I ask you, and I ask parents as well, is that for our seniors, that if you don't have a list, that you begin to think about where you'd want to go. Do you want to stay home? Because then the list will be very different than if you were going away. A combination of. We're fortunate to live in New York State, which have many wonderful colleges, both city and state. So a lot of things, but begin to think about that. And then Naviance, we're going to get you on Naviance. First of all, if you were with us and you're a senior, you should already know what Naviance is. You should already have your list there and know that you can research those schools on Naviance. But deadlines usually are as early as November 1st. And as late as January 15th, and then there's rolling admissions for certain universities. But don't worry, we're going to prompt you, but what I need is for you to be responsive, right? If we're prompting and we're nudging, I need you to respond, right? I need you to be a little bit more responsible because you won't be with us every day. One day a week perhaps, and some of you may be full-time remote. But don't worry, we will guide you. So long as you're responsive, you will be fine. And of course, my hope is that, sooner than later, we will be together full time. But until then, I want you, along with your parents, to reach out to us. If there is a question, ask. If we don't know the answer, the counselors and along with our teachers are very resourceful. We will figure it out together. All right. So that's all you really need to know. Question, you ask. And if there is an ask of you, that you respond to it. Okay. Because we had some issues on the screen in terms of people sharing things. Understand that the rules and regulation that we normally would have in school in terms of bullying and things and being, inappropriate behavior, and including in terms of how we dress. The expectation is that when you're on a Meet or in your Google Classroom, that you are not in your PJs and that you are appropriate to be viewed by your peers. That in the chat we're not being mean, right? If you can choose, always choose kind. So those things, and if you do participate in things like that, there will be consequences. We did have disciplinary conferences, not in person, where people, because they posted something inappropriate in the chat, there were consequences. So just for you to be aware, those are the expectations. Mr. Kozowski will go over that with you, but as if you were here, right? And of course, when you're in the building, the same rules and regulations will apply with a few extra, which would be wearing our mask, social distancing, washing our hands, and things like that. So if you have any concerns, remember your first go-to person is your guidance counselor. You all will know because it will be on the program. And of course, you could always email me. I will put my email, if I can figure it out, in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Mancini. So I'm going to go back to the presentation and move through a few more items with you. So we did have summer school. It was all remote. Some of you participated. That's term 7, and a lot of students finished up their NX grades from term 2 to recover that credit. If that occurred over the summer, their term 2 grade was modified. So the grade would have gone from NX, which means incomplete, now to CR, which means they earned the credit. The same thing happened over the summer. If students were registered for a full credit course, something that they maybe didn't pass on an earlier term, they were registered, nobody failed in summer school, students received an NX. So, just to kind of catch you up, for those who got an NX in term 2, you will have an opportunity in term 1 of this year to complete the required work. If you complete it by the end of January, the NX will change to a CR. If you don't complete it, the NX will change to an NC, which means no credit. All NX grades will be changed at the end of January. So there's going to be a CR at the end of January or an NC for no credit. And again, the same thing happened for the summer. If you were signed up for a new course for term 7 and you didn't complete it, you earned an NX, and you'll have until January to do that work. So we'll be sharing how students are going to make up those NX grades from term 2 or term 7 once you get returned. Our priority is just getting the school year underway just for the fall requirements, and then we'll add different things as we go along. So let's talk about safety measures and all of our same policies. Mrs. Mancini referred to some of them. We expect students to be respectful. We expect students to not wear hats, to dress appropriately, not just when you're in the building, but also at home, because we want you to be visible to the extent that you can to be participating. But just even thinking before you walk out of the house if you're blended. All staff and students need to see how they're feeling. If you are not feeling well, you should stay home. You will always be able to participate remotely. We'll still expect you if you're blended, but you always have the option to stay home remotely. You still need to communicate because we do expect you in the building. We'll do follow-up if you don't come and you're expected. But most importantly, if you have symptoms that are consistent with COVID, we want you to get tested because we want you to be assured that you don't have anything that might pass on to anybody else. And you can maybe, anticipate what other steps you might need to take. There is a health screening app that all of our staff members now have on their phones. They are required to complete it every single day before they enter the building. There's a designated staff member responsible for checking the green survey results before they proceed. And there are also random temperature checks being taken of staff. Now, that survey is not required of students at this time. I'm sharing the link with you. It's 4 basic questions, but I just want to assure everybody that our staff are doing that on a daily basis. So if you're in the building, and I hope you're accustomed to this already when you go into different places, at all times, students and staff must wear face coverings over their nose and mouth. And that's when you're coming onto campus, as well as when you're anywhere in the building, with the exception of obviously taking a quick drink or you're eating. And at all times, to maintain social distance while on school property or on DOE transportation. So I'm going to put on my mask, and I have to have my nose covered and my mouth. This, not acceptable. This, nowhere near acceptable. This doesn't count as wearing a mask. So everybody is going to have their nose and mouth covered. And I'm in my office all by myself. If somebody walks in, I put on my mask. Even if they're 6 feet away, I'm going to have my mask on. That's the same expectation of you. You are always going to have your mask on as you move around this building, because you'll never be in an office alone. And we're setting that standard for everybody, staff and students, and that's to ensure everyone's safety. So moving on, random testing will start in October. And once a month, we are going to be expected to select randomly 10% of our students, which is about 200, and 10% of our staff who will be randomly selected to have the COVID-19 test. We will be having a consent form that families need to complete to have their child tested. If you don't have the consent form and you're a blended student, you will be moved to remote, because there will be no exceptions if someone is not willing to be tested. Same thing with staff. There's a little bit of a different outcome if they are not going to be tested, but I just want you to know that that random testing will start in October, and we'll be sharing how those procedures will take place further down the road. Temperature checks will be done randomly at entry. So right now, we have students who are going to be coming in multiple doors in our front. We're going to see how that goes. If we need to open up additional entrances, we will, but we're going to have staff making sure students, as they come onto campus and get prepared to come into the building, you're maintaining distance, and then that's where the random temperature checks will happen. We have a designated isolation room for students if they become ill during the day, or if they are, with the temperature outside in the building. We're not just going to send you home. We're going to bring you into the isolation room. You'll be evaluated by the nurse. But you can see from this last bullet that if you're experiencing the symptoms somewhere during the course of the day, wherever that might be, we're going to have someone pick you up. You'll be escorted to the isolation room, and then we'll call your family to pick you up. You'll be assessed by the school nurse. But again, that caution with just, being honest with how you're feeling so you can be assessed. We want to be safe rather than sorry, because one positive case results in everybody having to be quarantined who've been exposed to you. So we're going to be really diligent about being honest about what's going on for us. A few more things. So you're going to be moving throughout the day. We want to make sure that if you're in band, you're going to have instruments. If you were in art, if you're in the gym, so you're not going to be in one classroom all day. That means that you need to take some ownership to clean your area, whether it's a laptop or a desk surface, just to make it ready for the next class that comes in. We do have masks that we can provide for students if they don't need one, but I'm expecting everybody's coming with a mask, because you're having a mask on the bus and the trains, and have been wearing one since March, basically. We will have hand sanitizer. We just received things. We're going to be posting sanitizer around the building. There will be cleaning wipes and sanitizers in the classrooms. And of course, we want to make sure there's soap and towels replenished in the bathroom so that students are able to wash their hands frequently throughout the day. The school will be cleaned and disinfected each night. We have electrostatic sprayers, and there will be special attention to high-touch areas like doorknobs and light switches. We do have mostly sensitive lights to motion, but to those areas that get touch frequently, and also we'll have signage reminding people about the face coverings, hand washing, and physical distancing. So in the event, and this is why we're being so careful, that we do have a confirmed COVID-19 case, and that could be a staff member or a student, the NYC Test and Trace and New York City Health will investigate, and they will determine the close contacts within the school. So all students and teachers exposed to the confirmed case will need to self-quarantine for 14 days. So it doesn't mean if you pass somebody in the hall, it just means if you've been in the same classroom. And again, we have protocols for how to inform students if they need to quarantine, how to tell families if there's a quarantine. And it doesn't mean that you're not participating in school, because you're still going to participate. It's just going to be remotely if you're on quarantine. If there's more than one case of a confirmed COVID-19, then, and it's not in that same class, we will all go remote, and the school building will be closed for at least 24 hours. So, you know, all the building will be cleaned, possibly a quarantine for as many as 14 days for everybody. Again, the building is the only thing that's closed. We will still jump right into action, totally remote, but we're hoping that we'll be able to stay with the flow of students coming in and out. If you have a positive case or you have been quarantined, you'll need to return to the building with documentation that clears you to return. And that includes a negative COVID-19 test, a doctor's note, and you need to verify that you've had no symptoms for 24 hours without medication. So for instance, without aspirin or Tylenol to kind of, you know, get rid of a headache. So I'm going to pause here. I've just kind of gone through a lot of stuff just to see if there are any questions. You know, we're going to count on all of you being cooperative. We're going to be very strict if you're not cooperative, but I'm not losing any sleep over Fort Hamilton students being cooperative about these rules, because it's the best way we're going to get back to normal business by following all the rules. Yes, Olivia, we are going to be traveling from class to class, but we've got arrows set up in the hallways. Mr. Kozlowski has been really busy putting signage around the building so you can see on one side of the hall, you're going one direction, and on the other side of the hall, you're going in the opposite direction. You're not going to be walking side by side with a friend. You know, we're really going to need to be diligent about maintaining that distance and respecting the space between you know, people in the hall, people in doorways. You know, we're very fortunate in our building that most of our classrooms have 2 doors. So you're going to enter through one door and exit through another door. Your teachers have been setting up the classrooms to make that happen as smoothly as possible. And I'll be going through the schedule in just a minute, and you'll see how, you know, where there aren't 2 doors, how we're going to make sure that you're all passing through safely. There are not lockers. You're going to be carrying your stuff throughout the day, and until further notice, the only thing you're going to be doing in our locker rooms will be using the bathrooms, because students are not going to be changing for PE for the foreseeable future. But we are going to make sure the bathrooms in the locker rooms are open on the 2nd floor. So there will be student bathrooms on every floor that we are going to supervise to maintain the distance. All right, I don't see any other questions about health, so I'm going to keep moving along and just share a little bit about our model. I mean, hopefully most of you have been keeping up with some of the emails, but it's all kind of a lot to take in. We still have 4,600 students registered with Fort Hamilton. We always have students coming in, you know, throughout the year, but 4,600 is where we plan to be and remain. We have 6 cohorts. Now that doesn't refer to your grade level. That refers to whether you are in one of the blended So there are 5 blended cohorts, and then the 6th cohort is all remote students. And the way you're going to tell is the 8th digit in your course codes tells you which cohort you're in, and they should be down along the program. You should see, if you're fully remote, you're going to have a D in every course code on your program. If you're a blended student and you attend in person 1 day a week, for instance, Mondays, which means you're in the A cohort, you're going to have A in the 8th digit of every course code on your program. So for instance, English is EE 83 as a sophomore, blank blank, A as the 8th digit. That A is all the way down the line, and that's how we're going to confirm you know which cohort you're in. I just gave you a little bit of a window into the split. Currently, we have 55% of students who have selected full remote and 45% who are blended. The option to change is only to change to full remote. There will be an opening to change to blended later in October for a shift in November. But for right now, the only option is to do full remote. We have the capacity in the building to have 930 students every day. But right now, with the spread of, split between remote and blended, we really only expect about 500 students per day. So if students change come November, we're going to have more room for students who want to come back to the building along the schedule 1 day a week. Lunch for students is going to be grab and go. There will not be any lunch on your schedule, nor will there be any activity in the lunchroom that has to do with lunch. But at the beginning of the day, lunch or breakfast, and lunch and breakfast will be set up for you to pick it up. You're not going to eat it wherever you want. You're only going to be allowed to eat it in your PE or health class, and PE is all going to be outside with rare exception, or you'll be picking up your grab and go lunch before exiting. So you're not required to eat at lunch with your PE or health class. You have that option, and also to pick it up at the end of the day. We want to make sure nobody is avoiding lunch or not getting the food. We want to make sure that students have that opportunity, but we're trying to make sure that students are, for the most part, able to eat outside. A little bit of a better sense of the cohorts. The A cohort is on Mondays. That is the day you will always attend. If Monday is a holiday, that just means everybody's off and you're not attending 1 day that week. B cohort is on Tuesday. The first day the B cohort will attend is the 22nd. C cohort on Wednesday, first day the 23rd. E is the Thursday, September 24th being the first day, and F will be easy to remember because it is with Friday, and the first day for the F cohort is the 25th. As I mentioned before, the D cohort is all remote. Most schools only have ABC, but of course Fort Hamilton is big, as with everything, and so we have an E and an F cohort as well. So the expectations are that every student will follow their bell schedule. Every day you'll go on Google Classroom. That's our learning platform for all of your classes. But you will log in to Google Classroom when your class begins. So if your class begins at 7:20, you're logging into Google Classroom at 7:20. If you're live in the building on a blended day, your A cohort, you will be in that class at 7:20, and you will have the schedule and follow your bell schedule all day. Those instructional materials on Google Classroom will be there at the beginning of every period daily. Some teachers might post things, the day before, but students will be required to log in during the Google Classroom period onto their Google Classroom. And of course, if they're doing remote live instruction, they will also log in at the beginning of class. You're going to be getting the Google Classroom conventions and citizenship expectations. We want to make sure this is as smooth and productive, positive and productive for everyone. And so we want to make sure those expectations for how you ask questions in a remote setting, how you're going to, kind of respond in the stream, things like that, where you'll find the assignments. We want to make sure some of those things are more coherent across the building, and you'll be able to, your family will not have access to the Google Classroom, but they will at least know what is set up for you on the Google Classroom. So now you're looking at the adjusted bell schedule. We still have 10 periods. We still start first period at 7:20, but you'll see that the duration of every period is 40 minutes. And instead of only a 4-minute passing period, we have a 6-minute passing period. That is primarily to make sure that we can stagger a little bit of the passing to be as safe and distant as possible in the building. And as you go down, you'll see that 10th period, instead of ending at 3:40, ends at 2:54. That's to accommodate a special schedule for our teachers to have an additional collaboration period. But, basically everything is sort of the same, with just each session ending a little bit earlier. And since students don't have a lunch period, what you're now looking at is the time frame. If you are 1 to 7, you start at 7:20 and your last period ends 12:36. Some of you might have a double period class, and so maybe you have 8 periods. This is just for most students will have only 7 classes. So for the most part, they'll only have 7 periods on their program. 2 to 8 starts at 8:06, ends at 1:22. 3 to 9, pretty close to the 3rd period start, but ends at 2:08. And a 4 to 10, obviously you can see we have a 4th session now, begins at 9:38 and ends at 2:54. We know that sometimes students have preferences. As always, we are not going to have the ability to change sessions. We are going to do our best to accommodate cohort changes for blended students for families that have siblings within Fort Hamilton. We're not going to be able to make those changes for preferences. We really, things are very, very complicated. They're always complicated with programs at Fort Hamilton, but they're even more so with the different cohorts. And it's been challenging, to say the least. We've been working really hard and wanted to get this information out to you as soon as possible. But you will be able to see your session and your class schedule on Monday on Pupil Path after 3 p.m. And I'll remind you of that in just a minute. So just reviewing some instructional expectations. We are committed to providing as much live instruction as possible. So each student along their 7-period day, whether you're in the building is a little bit different because you're going to be live all day long. But if you are remote, whether fully remote or remote 4 of the 5 days, you will have a minimum across your day, 120 minutes. That's in September. And we're going to be moving up that time every month, and we'll land with a minimum of 200 minutes in January. So we have a fair number of remote staff members, teachers who are going to be working full-time at home. They will be live every period, bell to bell. So 7:20, they're going to be waiting for you to log in to their Google Classroom and their Google Meet, and they're going to be with you to answer questions, go through the instruction, bell to bell. For blended staff, so that's staff who are physically here in the building, they will be live with the classes, the students who are at home, and the students who are live with them 2 to 3 days per week. We're alternating our departments just so we can have the capacity to have them live in the classroom. We're expecting that we'll have some adjustments with our technology. We've been trying to work out some kinks, but I'll just ask in advance some patience from everybody, and just be prepared that if anything happens, if you're not able to log on or if the teacher isn't there for some reason, you're able to go on to Google Classroom and do what you need to do during that same period. Because just as we expect to have some glitches with the internet, you may likely have glitches as well. So during that live instruction, you know, we're asking teachers to be visible on camera. I think it's important so that they can better, you know, show their expressions, to be clear. I think it will establish a relationship a little bit better. They may not always be visible from the start to the end, but I want to make sure that, you know, there's that relationship and that it's based on, you know, getting to know each other, you know, face as well as voice. And then students, you know, to be visible on camera is definitely preferred to better communicate with teachers and peers. I appreciate some of you are visible today. That's great. I know that that might take a little bit for some people to get comfortable with. So, you know, your teachers will work with you. There might be some very specific things where they will make sure you are visible and you'll be expected to be visible, but maybe just not the whole time. So again, just think about that so you're prepared and can maximize interacting with teachers and your peers. We'll be sending this out, but this is a schedule, a little snapshot. We'll basically have a Blue Week where you'll know in the Blue Week on Mondays, according to this schedule, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, you will be live with your blended teachers, if you have the blended teacher in the building, whether you're remote or not, you know, with arts and business, math, social studies, and world languages. And then on Tuesday and Friday of the Blue Week, you're going to be live with English, ENL, PE, Health, JRTC, and Science, and then it just flips. So it's 3 days for the opposite departments the following week and 2 days for the other departments. So that is going to help us achieve that live component so that everybody has that immediate interaction with their peers and their teachers. So a few things just to prepare for next week. The first day of all remote classes will be the 16th, next Wednesday. But we want to make sure that before then, everybody has a Pupil Path account. Most of you do. If you don't, make sure it's active. If you have questions about setting that up, we have instructions that we've been sending out, but it's also on the website. And we hope that both student and parent have an account. We're sending out mass emails to give information. That's how I'm going to be sharing the schedule for next Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Pupil Path is always going to be something that you need for communication as well as following your progress. Everybody should have a Gmail account. If you haven't already activated and you're a returning student, please make sure that you've activated your Fort Hamilton Gmail account. You will not be able to participate in Google Classroom without it. You're not using a personal email. Everybody needs to use their forthamiltonhighschool.org Gmail account. For new students, it might in fact be ready for you today, but just access and activate those accounts no later than the 14th. Because again, you need to be ready to go on Wednesday, the 16th. And if you haven't already, link your Pupil Path account to your Fort Hamilton Gmail account. I know a lot of you have personal accounts, but just to make all of your school items together, link your Pupil Path to the forthamiltonhighschool.org. As far as devices go, I hope that if you didn't have a device or a workable system in the spring, that you've been able to find a workable system. We do not have devices to provide. We expect some of our incoming students might have a device from the DOE and have returned to their other school. We have not been able to collect devices from our students who might have left or graduated. Until we do that, we don't have any devices to assign, but we hope that families have been able to secure a device for their child as needed. The blended cohort assignments, most received an email on the 9th, this past Wednesday, and I did a phone message as well later on the 9th. And more information is going out today, but you can always email. But perhaps you don't need to worry about not getting the assignment because it will be in your pupil path program schedule. You'll be able to see that 8th digit in your course codes will all connect to your assigned cohort. Class schedules and the session, so all of that comes together on Pupil Path after 3 p.m. on the 14th. We're going to work through the weekend to make sure we meet that deadline. We know you're going to be patient with us, but we want you to know what your schedule is. We really need to have minimal changes because one change is such a series. We're going to do our best to accommodate siblings attending on the same day with the same cohort. But the only other changes we're going to make are corrections. So if I have, Algebra 1, but I really should be in Algebra 2, that's a mistake. We need to correct that. That may adjust your schedule a little bit, but if you're returning, that sometimes happens. And of course, we always need to equalize the classes, but we're going to work hard to get as much of that solidified before you even see your program on the 14th. We'll be sending out the schedule for next Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday via Pupil Path. That'll happen on Monday. We'll also post it on the website, but it's a partial day for students. So each class will meet over the course of the 3 days. There will be 4th period is the new daily attendance day. So you'll have to participate in your 4th period class to some extent all 3 days, but you'll have an opportunity to meet with all your teachers. They're going to be setting up their Google Classrooms on the 15th and inviting you to join their Google Classroom. And you'll also get information about joining their live meeting, whether it's the 16th, the 17th, or the 18th. All of that is coming directly from your teacher. If you experience a program change, we're going to do our best to make sure, the new teacher will recognize you on their pupil path. They'll invite you. So again, we're going to work out a system to try to refine and make sure as soon as possible. But I would say you're checking pupil path every day to make sure you still have the same program, and your teachers will be doing the same because they want to make sure you don't miss any time with them if your program's been changed and you're someone new in their class. So just to go through a couple more things, and we'll take some questions. I've been talking a lot, I feel. I just want to make sure you understand you are present in class, so you'll be marked present, not absent, when you're on your virtual class during the class time. So if your class starts at 7:20, you are logging into Google Classroom, and if the same time you also have a live session that day, you are only present if you're logged in during the class time. You're still eligible to get your credit for the work you do, but you won't be counted present if you're not present during class time. Again, devices, want to make sure everybody has had their devices. We won't be able to distribute any for a while until we're able to collect the ones we distributed. We expect that students who got a device will return with those devices and continue to use them at home. You're not bringing your devices in, but the IDs, there's an opportunity for blended students to come in on Monday and Tuesday. We've posted a schedule on the website to come in and get your IDs. And again, that's only for blended students. We'll offer opportunities for remote students later in September because again, we hope everybody will need it on a regular basis, but we're prioritizing blended students. And a reminder that families can continue to select full-time remote on the Learning Preference Survey or by calling 311. And the option to select blended will open up at the end of October. So that's the window is October 26th through the 30th, and the change will be taking place November 16th. So I'm going to stop sharing and stop talking and come back and address some questions. I see Mr. Oberly is here with us, so feel free to ask any questions of Mr. Oberly. I'm sure there's some other staff here as well. Somebody's asking about the summer reading. Thank you for reminding me. I hope you guys have done your summer reading. There was a math assignment. If you are a new student, that will be a good way for your math teacher to get acquainted with you, just like the English teacher is always able to start that. So, I mean, Ms. McCarr, any questions that you want to highlight?
I was trying to answer most of them, but one of them, are students still gonna have swimming classes and music classes?
Definitely music. No swimming at this time, but Mr. Oberle, you want to just give a little information about music?
Yes, hi everybody, how are you? Using proper social distancing, we're going to see the breakdown of the students in the classes and see whether safely we can perform live or most of the performances will be remote. So we'll see once we start, but definitely musical performances will be going on this year, and it's just going to be another interesting way of learning. And we'll prepare you for college and career. The bells are just to make you feel back at home. But basically, all colleges, their auditions and portfolios will be submitted online. So this is great practice for you. So we're going to be gathering videos and so forth. Same thing with dance. Ms. Jafar is ready to dance either in person, using proper social distancing, or remote, similar to the way we did it last year from March on. So we're just looking forward to get started and coming back. And I missed you guys, and I can't wait to start.
Okay, so any other questions?
Yeah, there's a question here. Will remote classes be taught by teachers in the building while they are teaching classes, or are there different staff members for remote learners?
Well, right now we only have Fort Hamilton teachers. We do have the need for some additional teachers to accommodate the split of some teachers who, were only going to be teaching in person or only teaching remote. But we're going to do our best to make sure that you have Fort Hamilton teachers. We're not asking students to make a choice, whether you're blended or remote. You're not going to lose an opportunity to be in a special class or an AP class. But it's not an even split. We can't assign all remote students to all remote teachers. So we will have, some things covered in the building with staff who are fully remote at home. But again, the teachers are going to be live with you every day. So even if you're in the building, you're going to access your teacher live if they're working from home. I'm seeing a question about reading. Go to our website, FHHS.org. No excuses. It's prominently on the home page, but go to the library tab. And I know somebody's been answering a lot of questions who's been very helpful, in addition to Ms. McCarr. But make sure you do that summer reading, at least get started. So you're ready to roll. Clubs, we're definitely going to have clubs, tutoring, all those things we want to resume. We're not going to do that in September. We hope to get those things underway sometime in October virtually. And then depending on how everything's working out, we hope to start doing that in the building. The summer homework is due, I would say, the 21st. That's the first day of class. But I think your teachers who you'll meet next week will also let you know, like what their expectations are for you being ready to go. Mr. Oberle, a question about can you still audition for the Joffrey?
Absolutely. So once we start off here, why don't we send me an email, or Ms. Jafar an email, and we'll figure out how we could best do this. We could do it through sharing a link when she gives you various skills that she needs to see, and then we'll see if we could fit it in the program. Things are a little bit tight and difficult, as you can imagine, but we always do our best to put the students where they'll most likely succeed.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Oberle. As far as supplies and things like that, have what you normally have. I think a device is first and foremost what you need at home, but you're going to need a notebook or a binder, however you take notes and keep yourself organized with things that teachers might distribute. Learning how you best learn. You always need something to write with and something to write on. That will be really important. And I know that Mr. Oberly, you know, we always provide instruments for our students. Again, he's going to figure that out so you guys can be full participants, even if you're fully remote, and we're going to make it work.
Another question, are our sessions random or are they based on cohort or the grade?
Your sessions are random, how everything will fit. So if you have, you know, 7 classes that you need, you know, if they're, you know, English 1, Global 1, Algebra 1, you know, Living Environment 1, those are completely random because those could be any period at any time. It just is going to fit you with the best places where you'll fit. But in terms of special classes, those are very specific places on the master, and they might determine where some of your other things are, but it's nothing is, you know, personal. If you're a 1 to 7, it's where everything fits. If you're a 4 to 10, it's where everything fits. More often, we try to give seniors an earlier schedule in case they have jobs or things like that. And typically, there will be more incoming 9th graders who have a 4 to 10. But again, we have 9th grade classes, period 1 through 10, and 12th grade classes, period 1 through 10.
Another question, is the full-time remote or live?
Not everything. So again, it depends on, you might have a mixture of teachers who are in the building and at home. So it will depend on the teachers that you have. But you're going to meet them all next week, and they'll give you a little more information about when to be prepared for them live. And again, if you have a full-time remote teacher, you will see them live every day, whether you're in the building or whether you are at home.
Can students bring their own computer when they come for blended learning?
No, you're going to keep that at home. We'll provide you with a laptop when you're in the building. You know, you don't have access to the Wi-Fi on your personal devices, so those are just best left at home. So I think we're going to wrap up with just a reminder that you make sure you activate, if you haven't already, your Fort Hamilton High School Gmail account. You're going to look for a pupil path message on Monday that will remind you about the Gmail, that will remind you that you'll be able to access your pupil path schedule to see the classes and the session and things like that. You're also going to have, that email will include the schedule for the 16th, 17th, and 18th. And again, that's only from 8 to 12. So you do not have a full day on the 16th through the 18th. But starting the 21st, full day, you know, a minimum of 7 periods for everybody. You know, you're also welcome, I don't know if anybody asked this, but you can bring in your own lunch. You just have to respect the time that you can eat it. It's in your PE or health class, mostly outside. You do not need a registration code for your pupil path. And again, if you go to the website at, maybe it was already entered, but if you go to the website, which I'll type into the chat, FTHHS.org. Ms. McCarr has been keeping our website updated all summer long. It's now going to transition to somebody else, but you can always see the most current information on our website. We want to make sure you can go to most recent messages and schedules. You know, if you're frustrated and can't get into Pupil Path, check the website. You might find the answer there.